So everyone's being recorded. All right. So just really quick, we're going to make this really conversational. I can't wait to learn firsthand some of the stuff that I've read about and tracked on social. It'll be just one shot here today. We won't be zooming people in and out. So Kevin and I will bring the audience live. I'll welcome everybody. I'll say hello to Kevin. We'll have just a quick banner back and forth, and then we're going to welcome in our featured guests. I've got Jules Weldon, co-founder and CEO at OME Gear. Is that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Wonderful. And Stacey Pierce, also co-founder and CEO at OME Gear, right?
Yeah.
Now, Jules, when I watched a little bit of that video, which I love, that tells a story. And when I first heard it, I thought you said OME Gear, but it's OME Gear. Is that right?
It's OME, yeah.
Okay. All right. I get my kids' names wrong from time to time. So, feel free to correct me anytime. All right. So up front, we want to humanize y'all, right? We know a little more about Stacey than we do about Jules, but so we'll probably start with Jules. Where are you from? Give us those anecdotes, food, music, food, music, sports, whatever was really cool and inseparable from your upbringing. Folks were, connect with that. I'm preaching to the choir, I know, but we'll talk a little about some of those anecdotes. Stacey, we don't have to take a deep dive in Aiken because there's probably about 7 listeners, and most of them are my relatives that can relate to Aiken. But, I think of course, the Millbrook trips, Mr. Gaddy's,
Yes.
softball, of course, lots of things with Brandon. You were a little bit older in that cooler group.
Yeah.
I remember your first car. I believe it was your first car, like a 4-door white sedan.
It was the LTD. Yeah.
Yes, you've picked me and Brandon up a couple times. But anyway, so we'll try to Kevin and Jules. We'll try not to nerd.
Older sister.
I called it the SOB, Stacey's old Betsy.
Well, it was cool to me. It was cool to me. Now, Stacey, let's just level set a bit. Stacey was the cool one in school, right? Stacey kind of set the cool factor. I'll call it Stacey. So
She loves hearing that.
she
She's like, stop,
like that.
stop.
Right. Oh gosh, man, it's been forever ago. But anyway, so we'll try not to go too deep into those Aiken memories. And then Kevin, you're going to take the baton from me there. Kevin's going to lead us into talking about OME Gear, how it all started, the core product. It's tough to do it justice in an hour, given everything else we're going to be talking about, but kind of get into the nutshell. Your roles in the business. I read a little bit about what y'all submitted. I don't have that in front of me, but I'll probably ask you about that as Kevin leads that section. And then probably for our supply chain related global audience, y'all's lessons you learned. I saw some of your blogs and some of your social posting about the relationships and product design and contract manufacturing and some of the hits and misses and some things y'all learned there. I think our audience will love your whole story, but that will really kind of talk shop to them. Mm-hmm. And then one of my questions I'm looking forward to is, as an entrepreneur, your eureka moments y'all both have learned these last couple of years. We'll talk about your big news, of course, with America's Big Deal, but also with the, getting into these big retailers, which is a great win, as everyone knows here. And Kevin, kind of after you talk about OME Gear, and as we get into the second half, I'll be coming to you kind of for color commentary and kind of what you heard and kind of like what we typically do. Okay. But as Stacey and Jules have said, if you've got a question, we'll make it real conversational, and I'm sure the smart one is going to have some natural follow-up questions, Kevin, from your perspective, based on what you hear Stacey and Jules talk about. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Where our listeners can find the Wanderr just in time for beach season. We'll be publishing this probably about 10 to 12 days from now. So the timing, I think, is really good. We'll talk about your podcast. We'll talk about how folks can connect with you and OME Gear, inviting folks to the Facebook group, you name it. Stacey, I'll try not to. It'll probably happen, but I recognize a couple of your dad jokes from your Q&A session that both y'all had on your website. I heard. I think you've been using one of those for quite some time. The boogie.
Yeah,
so that brought back memories from Aiken alone. And then we'll make sure, Kevin, after we thank Stacey and Jules for their time, and y'all will still be in the shot. Kevin, I'll make sure we ask you about 4 Days to Change the World and Digital Transformers. And then I'll thank everyone for their time. And then I'm going to sign off in just, less than a minute. So if y'all could stick out, and then we'll give the all clear and exchange high fives and depart the platform. So I know that this isn't new to anybody here, but does all that make sense?
Yep. Sounds great.
Okay, wonderful. All right. So we're already recording. Kevin, all good on your end?
I'm good.
All right. Good. Stacey, Jules, all good on your end?
Yep. All good.
Okay. All right. Well, with none, let me make sure this is pulled up and we're going to get going.
All right.
Because it's about lunchtime out where y'all are, right? Stacey and Jules out in there, it's 2 or 3 hours behind.
Yeah, it is.
3 hours.
11:15. 3 hours behind.
Have y'all had lunch already?
Yeah,
No.
I just ate breakfast.
Oh man. Well, okay. Well, we're gonna get through this. So there's no Snickers
where are you?
moments, right?
You're in Cali?
We're in Tucson right now. Tucson.
Tucson, okay.
Have
So
you been
we-
out there, Kevin?
We leave,
Yes.
What was that, Jules?
we leave here tomorrow morning and get on the road again with the RV to Las Cruces, New Mexico is the next stop.
Yeah, I am so jealous. And Kevin, there, if you hear them refer to the Olive, that is the nickname of the RV, right?
Oh, okay. What kind of RV is it?
My
I did
grandmother. It's named after my grandmother.
Really?
Oh, okay.
I missed that.
Yeah.
What was that, Kevin?
I did an RV show for Citrix, did an interview showing how to work from anywhere. So this is a perfect work from anywhere show.
Yes. Well,
There's
you
a
know,
story behind it.
Kevin, we'll have to break out that footage of you on that bicycle. I think that was the same campaign, but
yeah, it was the same campaign.
all right. So Stacey and Jules, Kevin had one of those moments where he's on like a bike. It almost looks like a stationary bike, and he turns very dramatically and like makes some comments to the camera. So it was funny. Okay, well we're gonna dive right in. Again, I appreciate y'all's time. This is gonna be a blast. We'll make it conversational, and again, we're celebrating all that your journey and all the good news, and this is gonna make our week here. So let's see. I've started the recording. Y'all ever forget to do that? I've really made some people mad. Knock out some great interviews and completely miss it. But I got this one. Here we go. Hey, good morning, everybody. Scott Luton and Kevin L. Jackson here with you on Supply Chain Now. Welcome to today's show. Now, today's episode, we're going to be diving into the story of two extraordinary entrepreneurs that have been on quite a journey, bringing a very unique product to market. And the journey itself is going to be one you're not going to miss. Kevin, how are you doing? And we got a great show teed up, right?
No, look, I saw they were going to be on the show talking about the OME Gear, and it just brought all of these painful memories to me about walking across Hot Beach and Sand Bridge down to Virginia Beach, and my feet burning, and I'm dropping stuff all over the place, and not enough room in the little trailer I had, And then I saw this thing. Oh, I'm not gonna give it away, but I tell you, it was so it was a great show.
All right. So Kevin, man, you just laid out something that probably all of our audience, regardless wherever they are, can relate to. And so if you're feeling those pains, you're in the right place. So really excited about our guest today. With no further ado, Kevin, I want to welcome in our featured guest here, Jules Weldon, co-founder and CEO at OME Gear, and her colleague, a longtime childhood friend of mine, a really cool member of the Aiken community, Stacey Pierce, also a co-founder and CEO at OME Gear. Stacey and Jules, how we doing?
Oh man, thank you so much. We're honored to be here. Actually, we've been looking forward to this. This was on my bucket list, was to be on your show.
Oh wow, to be on
Man,
a bucket list.
It's getting thick. It's getting thick around here, but we'll take it anyway.
Other side. I've never been on the other side of a bucket list. This is a bucket list.
Man, it's a first. It's a first. Well, kidding aside, to our listeners, we had a great time in the pre-show. We should release that maybe as a follow-up show. But outstanding conversation teed up. But Kevin, where we're going to start with our featured guests here. Let's get to know them a little bit better. So I have a little bit of a head start with Stacey. So I'm going to start with Jules first. So Jules, tell us where you grew up, and you got to give us the goods from your upbringing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Scott and Kevin. We, like Stacey said, we are really honored actually to be on the show. So thank you for giving us this platform. We appreciate it to tell the story. So I grew up in right outside of Philadelphia in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Grew up with 6 kids in my family, so 4 brothers and 1 sister.
Okay.
I'm in the middle, so it's kind of like the Brady Bunch. There's 8 years in between the 3 and the 3. My mom said if she had to do it all over again, she would have had 4 more in between the 2 sets of kids, because there was 8 years, but she didn't. We have a really close family, very close to my siblings, and the majority of them still live up in the Pennsylvania area, but I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, so I get the entrepreneurial spirit, very honest. My mom started a bakery 20 years, or I'm sorry, 50, gosh, 50, probably
years now.
52 or 3 years ago
Wow.
now. And my brother, my youngest brother, 10 years or so, took it over. And like sometimes happens, he really propelled the growth of the business and got national exposure and all of that. So really cool wedding cake and party cake business and pastries and all of that. So very proud of that upbringing for sure.
I got to ask you a quick question. Have you ever read The E-Myth? And I can't remember the author. Y'all have. That's basically, and it's based on a bakery, and it really it offers universal lessons that I think anyone can relate to. Y'all have read this?
Oh yes, it's one of our favorite books.
Okay.
It's a great book.
Every entrepreneur needs to read that book.
Yeah.
You know, that's what my dear friend Enrique Alvarez told me. In fact, he said if I didn't read it, he was going to break my arm. So I read that very quickly. Kevin.
If Enrique promises, you better believe.
That's right. You don't want to mess with Enrique. But hey, Enrique, we love you if you're listening to today's show. All right. So Jules, I love how entrepreneurialism is in your veins. It's in your families. It's kind of what y'all do things. It's part of how you view the world. And it's really cool that your mom started a bakery and then your brother took it over. And they also play, I think your parents, we'll get to this in a minute, maybe, play a role in the beginnings of what we're going to talk about in terms of the journey y'all are on. So we'll get to that in a second. One quick follow-up question before we jump over to Stacey. So it sounds like you were, Jules, surrounded by not only entrepreneurial thinking, but delicious food as a kid. Let's talk, share something from that, or store toys. Did you grow up a Phillies fan? What else was inseparable from your childhood?
That's fun. That's fun that you asked that question, Scott. So I actually hated working in the bakery because the bakery was in the bottom of our house, and my parents built a very large home with the entire bottom of the house being the bakery. So it always smelled like cakes, which a lot of people think, that's amazing. But to me, I think now, like, I'm a salty person, not a sweet person. And I think it's because I grew up around so much cake and sweetness. But I hated it because we'd have to go to school and then come home and work in the bakery downstairs and flip out cakes and wash pans. Then I learned how to decorate cakes. And so I started doing that. And so that actually it's interesting. It's like you don't really appreciate something until you mature a little bit, right? And so once I matured, I realized what a massive benefit that was to me and my upbringing and my growth and all of that. But I would say, as far as fans, and my dad would take us to Phillies games all the time. We would also go to, I don't know if you've ever been to dirt track races, like short track, stock car kind of short track stuff. So I just remember always going to that stuff. My parents are awesome about giving us experiences, right? And not just kind of being in the day-to-day of like doing activities without it being an experience. And so I'm really grateful for that growing up. So thanks for jogging those memories.
I love it, Kevin.
We're going to have a show on the pros and cons of child labor later. But aside from that,
as a child, it's all cons, but as
but aside from that, Philly is my city. I'm going to go up there for the Veterans Stadium. I'm a Naval Academy graduate, so I was up there every year for 4 years straight, whipping up on Army. So
That's right. That's right. Well, as we say, fly, Eagles, fly. Whether it's bad or good,
So
I'm a fan.
That's kind of like with us and the Gamecocks.
That's
right.
right.
Well, true. Now, Jules, do you want to sing that song? I think there's like a theme song for the
Oh.
Philadelphia. I'm kidding. I
My
won't-
morning voice.
all right. One last thing, kidding aside, I love what you finished that thought on, the importance, the vital importance of parents that give their kids experiences and let them it kind of helps kids unpack their own view of the world, right? And what they want to do in life. That's certainly, that really resonates with me as a father of 3, because that's our goal, right? Whatever, help them find their passions, and then whatever it takes to help them, chase after it. So thank you for sharing that, Jules. All right, Stacey.
Yes.
We go a way back. So our listeners, just to kind of get to it quick, Stacey and I both grew up in Aiken, South Carolina, right? We went to the same church together. Her brother, Brandon Pierce, is a dear friend. I looked up to both of them. They were the cool folks in the city of Aiken, Kevin. But Stacey, tell us, share for folks that, aren't familiar, tell them about your background and some of those inseparable aspects of your upbringing.
Well, as you mentioned, I'm from Aiken, South Carolina, and it's me, my mom, my dad, and my brother, Brandon, who now goes by Pierce. I got the name Brandon, and everybody knows him as that. So you calling him Brandon is I don't hear that very often, other than from our family and old friends. So, grew up in Aiken. We went to the same church together, ran into a lot of the same kind of circles because our church was huge, and you were a part of Millbrook youth group or another youth group, and then we always intermingled anyway. Aiken's a very small town.
Yes, it is.
And you're just friends with everyone. So, which was really it was a blessing to grow up in Aiken, South Carolina, for sure. And then my background, but I couldn't, it's so funny, I couldn't wait to get out of Aiken when I was there. Now I'm like, if we ever have to go somewhere, we'll go to Aiken, just because the connections and the community, the type of community it is. So just,
I'll have to say, coming into it, I've never seen a town like Aiken, where Stace is connected to so many people from her growing up years. And then it's like, if you haven't stayed in touch, when you get back in touch, it's you immediately pick right back up, which is, Aiken is something special.
Yeah, even between, we have rival high schools. You had South Aiken or Aiken High, but we were still friends with everybody. Only when we played against them, we weren't like really friends. And then after that, we would all go party together. So it is a special town that we're from. But yeah, just a normal middle-class family we were raised in. I think my parents were big on experiences as well. And I think that kind of leads into where we are with our business and our product, is creating experiences for families.
That's right.
Giving families the opportunity to create experiences.
Well, hey, really quick, not only Brandon Pierce, but a big shout out to Billy and Sandra Pierce. I think Billy was he's a mentor of sorts, and I think he has an assistant coach for some of these teams we were on. So just a great family. So I want to wish them all hello, and who knows, maybe reconnect in Aiken one day.
Well, I will say, so one time, so my mom and I played softball. My mom's 72 and still plays softball.
Right.
The oldest softball player I think that is in church league has been, I think she broke the record. She still pitches. But at one time, it was my mom pitching, I was the catcher, and my dad was the umpire.
Really?
So it was a fix. The fix was in.
Yeah.
So every pitch was a strike.
Every pitch was a strike. I love that, Jules. Well, so much to talk about. Mr. Gaddy's Pizza, those secret destinations on those Sunday nights. I don't know if you remember that when Turtle Top first came around. And Stacey was, as I mentioned, kind of like, she was the mayor, guys, Kevin and Jules. So it's great to reconnect. But kidding aside, we got to get to Kevin, what they're up to now, because as much as we want to reminisce about our past and our childhood and some of the cool moments there, they're on quite a journey, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like they're really digitally transforming your time at the beach. So I want to understand more about OME Gear. So how did you guys start with this? I mean, how did you get from, baking to, beach gear? I just doesn't, the connection kind of eludes me.
Yeah, no, I see how that eludes you. Talking about the experiences that my parents would always create for us, we would vacation at Bethany Beach, Delaware, every summer. And we started, my dad was in the military, flew helicopters in the military. And so we started, there's
What
actually,
branch?
he was in the Army, National Guard.
Oh, no, I was a carrier pilot in the Navy, but go ahead.
Right. Hey, y'all serve and all that. So we're just appreciative for sure for any branch of the military. But there was a base down in Bethany Beach, which is why we started going there, where we could stay in the barracks for like $5 a night. So where there's 6 kids and not a ton of money. And so we ended up vacationing in the barracks, and we would walk across the street to the beach and go to the beach every day. And we had to carry all of our stuff over there. But once we kind of advanced and my parents started making more money and all of that, we actually ended up progressing to get a condo on the boardwalk, which was
nice.
We thought we were like, we
yeah.
had arrived.
Highfalutin.
That's right. But my parents were sitting on the boardwalk, and they watched this single, she was by herself, woman come off the beach with 3 kids, and she was miserable. And my mom and dad, they just said, gosh, going to the beach should never be a hard experience. It's such a joy for us. It should never be a hard experience. And so they kind of the typical American story, American dream, where they went up to their condo room and napkin sketched out, which I wish we still had the napkin, but they napkin sketched out this lounger that if you flipped it up the other way, it would become basically like a dolly. So my dad got it patented, and that was before beach carts were all the rage. My dad got it patented and tried to take it to market and just had no idea how to do it. And so,
hey, Jules, really quick,
yeah.
if I can ask you just about the patent, I've never gotten a patent. Again, we got the 3 intelligent ones on the other side of the Zoom screen here. But when he filed that patent, did he go through an attorney, or did he? I've heard you can put your idea and mail it off to the patent office, and you kind of get an easy patent that way. How easy was it for him to get a patent?
Well, this was way before Google too.
Yeah.
So this was back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, 1998, actually. So 23 years ago. But the process was hard and it was expensive. And so after the first couple tens of thousands of dollars and getting the engineering to do drawings, and my mom was like, honey, you can't keep dumping money down this hole. And so my dad agreed, and so he just kind of set it up on the shelf and just let that dream sit there, which I bet you a lot of your listeners can relate to. Everybody has an idea, right? But not everybody takes it to market or knows how to take it to market. Yeah. And so fast forward 12 years, I was working as a business management consultant for a large consulting firm, and got tired of working 80 hours a week for somebody else. And so at these moments where you just don't forget them, at 1:30 in the morning, I sat up in bed and I thought about my dad's idea. It was called the beach caddy. And so I called him at 8:30 that morning, knowing that he'd be awake. And I said, hey, Dad, what would you think about me trying to take your product to market? My dad is one of our now, but certainly one of my heroes in this world. He's an amazing man. He started crying and said, honey, that would be a dream come true. Now, 12 years later from when he set it on the shelf. And so he said, I'll give you everything. So he assigned the patent over to me. And patents only really have a life of about 17 years once they're granted. And so I had about 4 or 5 years left on that patent. And so he assigned that over to me, but it was really kind of Frankenstein at that point. I mean, with designs changing and all of that. So,
but Jules, it had advanced from the napkin to probably some engineering designs by then.
Yeah. And I do have those, which is really cool. And so we have a whole document that's like the evolution of OME Gear and over 23 years. Yeah. And so he assigned everything over to me, and I ended up going into one of my colleagues, who's one of my mentors at PwC, and just said, hey, John, what do you think about this? And he said, well, how much research have you done? And I said, as much as I know how to do, and he said, I think you're onto something. So the next day I came back in and I said, would you be my business partner? Because think about it, I'm from a family of 8, 6 kids and a mom and dad. I've never done anything alone. I mean, I am a very much a team player, a partnership player. And so he was flabbergasted and said, absolutely. So he and I moonlit, and long story short, one of our clients was a manufacturer. And so we took them out to dinner and showed them the product and said, hey, would you consider being our contract manufacturer? And
Wow.
they said, we like your idea so much, we would like to buy 60% of your company.
Well, it
Wow.
wasn't a company, it was
Oh.
a concept.
It was just a concept, right? That we'd been moonlighting on. So we ended up saying yes. And we thought it was a marriage made in heaven until we realized it wasn't. And Stace always says, give people 6 months to show you they're crazy, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
six-
yes.
6 months. And if you start living by that, it will blow you away how true it is. And not to show you that they are crazy, but to show you what their crazy is, right? We all
Right.
have it.
Yeah.
Like we all have a little bit of crazy in us. And it usually doesn't come out until 6 months, but you see it after 6 months. And so long story short, and the easy way to say it and the kind way to say it is our values did not align. And so a long process and a really grueling process. In 2014, I actually ended up walking away from that company and basically saying I would rather flip burgers at McDonald's than work with you guys and try to take this product to market. So
So
that was,
if I
Go ahead.
can ask you a quick follow up there, and Kevin, I'd love to, that decision with that business, that incredibly high level of business maturity. It's not a decision you want to make, but it's one that you got to kind of pull up every fiber of your being and be willing to step out from what was yours and your father's. A lot of
Yeah.
people they're not willing to take that massive step. And this is a big, bold, difficult decision. How did you make it? Like, did you consult back with your dad and, kind of lay out what was going on? And then, who was your big supporter as you were making a really tough decision?
well, this woman right here was my big supporter for sure. I mean, we had multiple conversations about it. I talked to John, was a dear friend and mentor of mine. He had actually gotten fired. And that's a whole other story that's way more fun to tell over cocktails. But not because of any fault of his, that
Right.
is for sure. So there was just one thing after another. And it's really interesting. I'm a very loyal person. I've always been that. My family is that. We're committed. Our word is our word. And so for me to walk away from my dad's and mom's dream and my dream, thank you for noticing how hard that was. I mean, it was one of the hardest things in my life. And I'm like a dog to a bone where I don't give up on something until I know I've been released. And there came a moment at the National Hardware Show in 2014, and Stace wasn't there, but we talked all the time. Where
I was at home taking care of the house, and she was at the show.
Yeah, but we knew, after multiple conversations, I said, I literally cannot do this anymore. So on the plane ride home is where I wrote a 3-page resignation letter. That was really more for me than for them. They probably didn't even read that letter. But for me, I needed to say all of the reasons why I was walking away. It was not an easy decision. And as a result, I ended up working at the shrimp docks in Charleston. I came back and I just needed to heal my soul, and I needed to be with salt of the earth, good people. And so I went and worked with one of the just very famous and renowned shrimpers in Charleston, who now unfortunately has passed, but I got the privilege to work with him for 9 months and making hardly no money, but it didn't matter. Money is not an issue when your soul needs to be healed, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I did for 9 months, and then she got tired of me coming home smelling like shrimp.
Well, I'll tell
So,
you,
Kev,
one thing,
go ahead.
one thing you say is that, loyalty is rare in business. So I'm not surprised you didn't find it. But there's another axiom I wanted to ask you about. And they say that, founders make horrible CEOs. So as you're going through this process of making this decision to walk away from your dream and your family's dream in many ways. You know, I'm sure you had to think about, well, is it them or is it me? How did you settle on that it was them without, you know, really worrying about that?
Yeah, I'll say it's always two sides to every story, right? I mean, and if they were, to be fair, if they were on this interview with you right now, they would have a very different side of the story that I honor and I respect. And so for us, our biggest challenge was financial money, and it always has been. And part of that goes into a statistic where only 2% of all funding goes to women.
Right.
And so it's always been, taking a complex product like ours to market is very expensive. But if you only have access to 2.7% of all funding, then that's a massive challenge, right? I think the other thing to kind of be a little bit reflective, I have a strong personality. I have a strong mom. She started a business that's now still going, right? 50 some years later, thankfully, my brother took it over. But oftentimes, unfortunately, if women are strong in business, we're considered, and I apologize if we can't say this, but we're considered the bitch. But if men are strong in business, they're doing their job, right? And so for us, that has always been a challenge for me, where I've lost my voice too many times in business and in personal life, that when I give my voice, it's always okay, I need to temper it or give it, right? There's always this really weird back and forth. And so I think they would have said I was too strong, and I would have said I'm being a business owner.
So I can only imagine kind of that constant struggle, right? That you just described there. Stacey, I want to get your take here, because you clearly had Jules back. You helped, kind of as an internal consultant, and coach and supporter. Describe that time frame. Describe as you are making those tough decisions. Describe what you saw.
I mean, I can't even be nice about it. I mean, it was horrible. I would be obviously we lived in the same home. And then I would be there and I would hear phone calls, and the way they spoke was unbelievable for me. How she stayed in as long as she did, I have no idea. When they fired her business partner, who was the foyer into the manufacturing, that he was over the manufacturing process and the quality control. When they fired him at 6 o'clock one night and cut his benefits off at midnight for a 68-year-old man and his family, that that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And then when she was at the National Hardware Show, like I said, I had a corporate job back then. And then they pulled the brand new one right off the line, the new camo version, and it didn't work. And the new guy who had replaced John was there, and he's like, oh, well, it happens. To me, it was just another, that was kind of the other nail in the coffin to say, you need to leave, and we'll figure it out. Figuring it out. Everything is figure outable, right? But not every relationship is fixable.
Right.
And so let's move on from this. And so when she called and said, I'm ready, I'm done, I was like, hallelujah. Because for 6 months or so, I had seen the way they just spoke to her and the demands and how they pushed, they had a marketing budget of 12,000 and they knocked her down. They're like, no, now you're only going to have 2,500,
Wow.
And it was really hard. I felt like I was trying to run a marathon, and every step they were cutting off parts of her legs. And so it was just hard to see, but she had to come to her own conclusion on it. I just had to be the support behind it.
Okay.
Well, I see, there were so many good entrepreneurial lessons in that story, but you came out of the end of that journey with something that's really stupendous, amazing. I like to say. I want to I want you to talk about that core product, right? What, the thing that came off the assembly line when it all worked.
Yeah. So I kind of want to take it back. So Jules's dad came up with the 2-in-1 concept. So it was the dolly that transformed into a lounge chair. And then Jules's other product was a chair that locked into a base and became a cart. So that was a 3-in-1. So in 2014, when she walked away, we were done. We weren't going to even look at another beach camping product or whatever. And then so we actually in 2015 started our own business coaching firm called A Salty Rim after she had healed her soul. And we both had a business background. I had been on the ground floor of 9 startups. So I was in the medical world. And
Stacey, I had no idea. That's a ton of incredibly valuable experience. I never knew that about you.
Yeah.
9 startups.
Yeah. So I either worked in them or did them for other people. Anything from building an adult day center for dementia care to a home care company to a restaurant to a catering business. So, all over the map. But so we started our business consulting firm because we both had the business knowledge to help other people. In about 2016, we just kind of looked at each other and it was like this nagging, like this gnat, it was like, build a cart and they will come. Build a cart they can never kill. And so we're like, man, this idea just won't go away. And so we're like, what if we do something different and we take all the consumer feedback from the other product, it was too big, it was too bulky, blah, blah, all these things, and design something new. And so we just started partnering with people, and we were just coming out. We're like, okay, we don't want it just to be a beach product. We want people to create experiences wherever you are. Anytime you need to haul something and have a seat or lay down when you get there, we want it to be an experience wherever you are, because someone in Montana, they don't have a beach.
Right.
And so we need to also look at colors. It's literally all encompassing thinking on a product to get it out to the masses. And so it was like, we need something that's going to be for the beach, camping, children's sporting events, picnicking, wherever, music, tailgating,
festivals,
whatever.
Yeah.
Universal, right? You want to make it
universal, even though we lived at the beach. But we also needed it to be universal, that it not only rolled on sand, but it also rolled on rocks.
Right.
And so there was a lot of that went into it. And so in 2016, like I said, the idea just never went away. Well, in 2017, we finally came up with the iteration of what you see today, which is the 5-in-1.
5-in-1 called the Wanderr. Wanderr.
We
Right.
in 2018. So it's been a journey, because the former company in 2018, they actually dissolved our company then. They dissolved that in 2018, and the 5,000 units that we had in the warehouse, they sold for scrap metal. And so it's a crazy story. But once they dissolved that company, and we actually took the patent that I had gotten with them on the former product, because I had gotten a new patent, we took that to the attorney and said, we need to create a patent that doesn't infringe on our new product. And so that's kind of what we did. We used that. So we're free and clear from those guys, which is a great thing. Yeah.
Wow. You've learned so much about product design, about marketing, about manufacturing, contract manufacturing, what to do and what not to do. So can you maybe, give us some tips there? I'm writing, I'm taking notes. So what have you learned over the last couple of years?
Oh, wow. That is a loaded question. We're still learning.
I'll tell you what I've learned. I've learned that the more I learn, the less I know.
Yeah.
That's honestly, and I don't mean that to be anything, but honestly, the more I learn every day, and we just talked about this, every day I go to bed so exhausted. And I'm like, why is that? Because I'm sitting at the computer, or I'm on Zoom calls, or we're doing demos for people or whatever. Why is it? Because it's not physically demanding, but it's so mentally taxing to be in this role that we're in.
Right.
Taking a product to market that's never been done before, and create in a space that's male dominated. So we're, females and entrepreneurs and inventors in a male dominated space of outdoor gear plus manufacturing. And I honestly feel like every day I'm like, I don't know what in the hell I'm doing.
Wow.
But
Before I throw it back to Scott, I want to ask one more question.
Yeah, please.
Is that the genesis of the less, more shucking green tea? I tell you, I saw that online and I said, that's got to be a story behind that one.
No, that story, we partnered with a really dear friend of ours who's an oyster farmer in South Carolina. And we did a whole raise the money for the oysters. And so we had some t-shirts left over. So anybody who's an oyster eater will connect with that t-shirt for sure.
Man, Kevin, you are so perceptive. I tell you, he took a deep dive into the OME Gear story.
That was way back too. It didn't even register until.
Well, so I want to pick back up on that last question, because I know y'all learned so much and you're still learning to Jules what you're saying there. But whether it's oysters, Stace, one thing that I can recall from back when we were kids, and then some of the things you mentioned, is that philanthropic passion that you have, right? And that seems to kind of be something that you've always revisited, and it's a big part of your journey, regardless of what you're doing. And it just dawned on me as both of y'all were speaking about some of those things you did as a kid, and it just kind of continues to manifest itself into what you're doing now as entrepreneurs. One quick follow-up question: is there one thing? So thinking of anyone that's listening to this podcast here, maybe they're fighting with a patent, maybe they're they've already got a great idea, maybe it's already patented, and they're trying to find the right partner, engineering, manufacturing partner to bring it to life. Is there one tip? I know there's plenty, but one of the things that would come to my mind, Stacey, is maybe you got a date for, you can't just, get married, after a couple of days. You need that 6 months to kind of really make sure the relationship and the expertise and the crazy is right. But what else would you add to that?
I mean, that, first of all, I'd like to even go on that point. Jules and I have been burned so many times because we go into relationships trusting. It's like a bank account. You don't lose. It's a full bank account, and then people, they start ticking away at it, and then eventually it's empty and you can't trust anyone.
Right.
But we always go in, instead of letting them prove to us, we always go in with the full bank account and then let them tick away, which what we're learning is we need to take time and fill that bank account, and notice those red flags. And I always say in our personal coaching and our business coaching, in the US, and it may be different in another country, but have you ever seen a yellow light turn green? In the US, all yellow lights turn red.
Yes.
Right.
And so if there is a yellow flag, most likely it's going to turn into a red one. And this is something we've literally had to learn on the go while we're driving the car 90 miles per hour, because so many times we're asking people to come in and ride with us. And before we know it, they're just not, they don't have the same values as us. They want to build hurdles instead of breaking down the barriers. And that's something that we struggle with daily, is how do we vet people where we don't need to take 6 months. And that's something that we're still learning as entrepreneurs and as people in the manufacturing world, because there's so many manufacturers that will take advantage of you. But also what we're learning is bringing in the right people, the right mentors. the right people that can come in and say, hey, can you look at this? Bringing in the right attorneys. Not every attorney does the same thing. So you need a patent attorney, you need a business attorney. So so you need to make sure you're talking to the right attorney for the situation you're in. You might want to add on to that too. I just
great.
There's so much goodness in what you should. It's like I got a little mini master class over the last 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, one thing that's important though is entrepreneurship is a team sport.
It is
That's
a team sport.
That's right.
Just for instance, we met with a gentleman. We met a gentleman at the National Hardware Show yesterday, and it's all about building connections and relationships. And that's what Jules and I are all. That's another huge value of ours. Is we don't want to always go to people wanting something. How can we give back? How can we help you in the process? But we met with a gentleman yesterday who's been in the manufacturing space for probably 30 or 40 years, and now he's a mentor. This is the first time I've ever taken a product to market. And so I still, I am learning, but now I have somebody that I can go to and show the manufacturing agreements. So because we've gotten burnt in the past. Yep. So now I have somebody that actually is in my court on my side that can sit with me and redline and go through the process with me. So we're not out there doing it by ourselves.
All right.
So I think that's exactly it. It's finding somebody that's not on the other side trying to sell you something, because they'll convince you of what they want you to buy all day long, right? And so if you're trusting, you'll go, okay, yeah, that sounds great, let's go. But if you can have somebody else that's objective, that's not as close to it as you are and as married to it as you are, look at whatever they're selling and promising you and go, yeah, no, that's not going to work. Taking that advice, right? That's all the difference in the world. And so we're learning that.
And for your listeners who have a product, always have somebody else look at that manufacturing agreement. Do not hold it at face value, and do not sign a huge PO. We made that mistake. We know we've made that mistake. So because you have to test it out, right? You need to test the market. And so you figure out what the lowest PO is. And then if it's a good marriage after that 6 months or that year that you're in the business, we are partnering with them. That way you're not locked into a lot of money up front to a manufacturer.
Excellent points. That piloting and experimentation is so critical, and you are reinforcing that point. Making the tough decisions. I mean, there's so many things y'all touched on. Making tough decisions. The yellow lights always lead to red lights here, at least in the States. I've never thought about that.
Always lead to red, yeah.
Right, and vetting. Even 6 months, as we all know here, is an eternity in startup world. But how can we vet people to the point where we know that they're the experts, and oftentimes, hopefully, the objective experts that we need based on the needs of the day or the needs of the week or what have you. And that's just scratching the tip of the iceberg. Kevin, before I ask them about a eureka moment, there's so much more to the story. And by the way, listeners, check out omegear.com. I want to make sure that's out there, because at the very top of the website, every human is going to be able to relate to this. Outdoor adventures are fun. Getting there is often not. That's where the Wanderr comes in. But Kevin, before we talk entrepreneurialism with Stacey and Jules here, what else did you hear there that our listeners have got, they can't miss?
Well, the other thing is that this is a continual learning process as well. I mean, Stacey and Jules talked about how much they learned along the process, and they learned from their network. So the importance of your network as for mentoring, for learning, and your network is your team. And your network can also provide that objective view of things. So, I mean, a lot of people really underestimate the power and value of the network.
Right. I completely agree. Okay. So I want to, we're learning a lot from Stacey and Jules in this journey. We're going to get to some big news here in just a second, but I want to give y'all one more chance, rather, kind of not from an OME Gear journey, but kind of from a broader entrepreneurial journey. I bet y'all both have had some eureka moments like we all have had. Goodness, sometimes they come by the hour here in these recent years, right? But what's been one thing that really stands out to you, that's something you've learned about yourself as an entrepreneur or about the path in these last couple of years? And Stacey, I'm sorry, Jules, let's go back to you, and we'll come back to Stacey.
Yesterday we went on a hike. We're in Tucson, Arizona right now. And it was in a canyon, and there weren't any other people around. It was just Stace and I. And when we first walked in, there was a sign that said, "Mountain lions have been spotted. Be aware." And then as we walk in, not even a half a mile, quarter mile, there's a snake that's about 6 foot long that crosses the path. And it was
I went screaming.
Yeah.
Let's keep it real. We got to keep it real.
Yeah.
I would too.
So because Stace, I have a fear of snakes. Stace has a massive fear of snakes. And so I took one for the team and I walked first. We had walking sticks, but I found myself getting incredibly fearful with every passing step, looking in every nook and every cranny for a mountain lion, looking up on because they said they've been spotted, right? So now, then what I do is I go in my head, I'm like, okay, if a mountain lion, and then I think of that video where the guy captures it, he's running and the mountain lion chases him, right? And so I'm literally playing all these things out in my head while trying to be the strong leader that's walking up in front. And I found myself going down a massive spiral. And I was like, it sounds silly and whatever, but it was really real. And I communicated it, number one, to Stace. I'm like, I'm really afraid. I'm actually like really afraid. And she said, is this more fearful to you than driving the RV? And I said, because that's part of our story that I'm sure we'll talk about, but I said, it's as fearful, which is that's like a 9 or 10 out of a 1 to 10 for me. And she was like, wow. And she goes, okay, let me just lead. And so she got in front and she led, and I was literally able to come out of my spiral because she was leading. And for some reason I was able to regain my whatever. So I tell that story because that for me has been our lives for the last since 2018 when we picked this thing back up, where it literally feels fearful. I mean, the fear that I feel every day is palpable. It's real. It's holy. I have to lead this company, right? Obviously with my partner here, but every day. And if I get into a downward spiral, I am no benefit to anyone, right? I play out all the scenarios that can happen in my head. I'm not any benefit to anyone. And so Stace and I have this philosophy together. We have a lot of them that are actually really meaningful to us. One of them is this tattoo, out love, out give. We both have it. That's our philosophy for life, where we just want to out love and out give people. That's the philanthropic thing that you talked about. Thankfully, we share that. But the other one is the little red wagon. And Stace brought this into us. When one of us is tired, we sit in the wagon and the other pulls and then flip flop, right? And sometimes we both just have to sit in the wagon and go, you know what, we're not moving anywhere. Yeah. Or we can scooch, right? That goes really slow. So for me, whatever the lesson is in all of that, I just experienced it again yesterday. So you said you have eureka moments every day. And my most recent one was yesterday, where I was like, I need Stace so much. And I don't want to keep talking about it because I'll start crying and then I ugly cry and it's never good. But that is so beautiful to me, of the power of a partner or people that you trust around you to go, it's okay to be scared and I've got you.
So let me get Kevin before we switch over to Stace and get her response to that and her own eureka moment. Kevin, your take there.
So I once again, you're always learning, but you also have to be open to learning, right? And you can't learn unless you welcome it. So and it's important for you to recognize that, and clearly you can see this partnership feed on each other. They feed on each other in this partnership, and that's what a valuable network does.
Yeah, agreed. And you got to be honest with yourself. and own up to the fear of the situation, or when you're tired, to recognize it. We can make a bunch of mistakes by fooling ourselves into not acknowledging these very human feelings and positions that we're in. And so it's nice to sit in a little red wagon from time to time and kind of recharge. But so Stacey, so much goodness in what Jules just shared there. So it's gonna be tough to top.
But you know,
Now your
another
requirement
thing.
is I can cook a full dinner in an RV.
No, not just a dinner. It will knock your socks off.
Wow.
Yes, I've seen pictures.
Yeah.
Your massive Facebook following, count me amongst them. I've seen some of the culinary adventures as part of your journey as well. But Kevin, you were going to say something before we switch over to
Yeah,
Stacey.
it was something also that I wanted to also pull out. When you're one of the things that's important when you're working this valuable network is emotion and empathy. And it is well-known fact that women have more emotion, more empathy than men. So the question is, why does only 1 or 2% of investments are in women CEOs or women founders? So when if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, if you're a man or a woman, you should understand the importance of empathy and emotion in being successful as an entrepreneur.
That's so well said, but because I would take it a step further, empathy is so critical to understanding the pain in the market that you're looking to address and provide a solution for and build a business on. And so it really makes no sense, to your point, Kevin. So we got some heavy lifting to do to make sure that the investment community is providing opportunities for all, for sure. Okay, Stacey, officially. So Eureka moments from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
I mean, obviously I could just say a big ditto and kind of bow out of this, because I think that is she's exactly right. We do live by those moments. And this journey, especially in the past year, has been super tough on us, but also me, but not on us as a couple, us as a partnership and a couple. It actually has brought us together. It's really weird, where most times it would drive a wedge through people. It seems like in our hardest moments, our sorrows are divided, and then it just brings us closer together. It's just like we don't have this opposition against each other. I think Eureka moment is one that Jules and I also talk about, and you brought it up earlier, Kevin, is founders do not make good CEOs. I think when we first started this business or this company, we kind of were talking about roles and what we needed to be called, and we both put CEO on it, because CEO obviously gets you in the door more than, whatever another title, a director or just
head bottle washer,
whatever. It gets you in the door. It opens doors for you, right? And it's a very unfortunate that's the way the world works.
Sort of assumptions that people make.
Exactly. And Jules and I both have come to the conclusion that we are not good CEOs. Now, Jules is, and this is something I had to kind of back down on my ego a little bit, because I've always been a leader. I mean, Scott, you know that. I was always a leader in Aiken, in anything we did in sports or in
projects,
school.
initiatives, campaigns. Absolutely.
And so I've always been a leader, and I've always thought of myself as a leader. Even building other companies for other people, I took the leadership role in those. But this is Jules. This is her family legacy, right? This was her parents' original concept, and so I had to throw my ego out the door and say, you know what, you're the face. I mean, we're the face of the company, but she is the leader of our company. And I'm just I'm the support. I get to hold her up, that's where I'd prefer to be anyway. But what we did, my Eureka moment is then I didn't really feel like I had a purpose. If Jules was the leader in the company, where was my purpose? I am more in this sort. I like to serve. And so with our next project, I will get to tap into that part of me. But one day we were sitting and I just started creating. I have an inventor's mind. If you look at my notebook, I have all kinds of inventions. I have a roadmap of products that we're going to tap into later after the Wanderr is in the market and really in the market really well, because that's what we need to focus on. But I started just working with the manufacturer and started working with the design process. And that's where I lit up. And I was like, this is where I need to be. I literally dream. I have dreams at night. I'm an inventor. I'm a visionary on that. I'm not always the best executor of things. I can have the vision, and I know that about me. I am not a details person. Only when I'm catering and cooking am I details, but I don't measure anything, so I'm really not. Jules is the one that will read something through and through and redline it. I'm like, oh yeah, it looks great. I don't know. I mean, I'm just not that person.
Right.
Never have been. But I am a visionary. But so that was my eureka moment. I think is realizing my role in the company is not necessarily the leader of the company. Jules is our leader. But the supporting actor is my role in this.
And being at peace. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yeah.
What was that?
It's know thyself, right?
That's right. And being perfectly content, you don't have to be this, you don't have to be that, you can do what you want, do what you're, where your crazy is, right?
Yeah.
As it applies to your skill sets and your passion, all that stuff. So I love that. That's a big lesson for our listeners, what both of y'all have shared here. Because I think once you're at peace with who you are, life gets easier, right? I mean, especially as an entrepreneur, right? Because what I've found is this journey that we're on as founders in startup world, you got no challenge or no shortage of external challenges. And man, while I subscribe to the fake it till you make it to some degree, but still at the heart of it, you got to be at peace with who you are. And it's a lot easier to lean into these challenges that we're going to have as founders and business leaders. So
yeah, it's also good to recognize that if you're an entrepreneur, no one has been there before. That means there isn't a right and a wrong.
Right.
Right. So there isn't a right and a wrong. So
you're so right. There's not a book on the shelf in the Aiken County Public Library that says how to build Wanderr into a global product, global smash. You're making all these decisions, big and small. It's a culmination. So I want to make sure. All right, we're going to tackle some big news in just a second, but I want to kind of flip these next two questions since we're talking about the Wanderr, the 5-in-1, solving the issues, not just at the beach, as Jules mentioned, camping, events, tailgating. There's so many different uses. Where can folks find beyond at OMEgear.com, because you can purchase the Wanderr from your website, right?
Yep, you sure can.
We got beach season coming up, and that's just one of many uses. But where else can folks? Because I think part of the big news is how easy it is to find the Wanderr, right, Jules?
Yeah. So we're on a bunch of .coms. We're on Amazon. We're on Huckberry.com, doing really well on Huckberry.com. We're in all 14 distribution centers for True Value, which is
wow, that's huge.
Yeah, it is really huge actually, and it's pretty unheard of that a big retailer like that will bring in a new product and a new company in all 14 of their DCs. Typically what happens is you'll see us really soon on outlets like campingworld.com and homedepot.com and lowes.com, and all of those are in setup right now. So what these large companies like to do is they like to test it first on the .com to see how it does. And if it does well, they'll bring them into their retail locations. True Value is different. They said, we love this product so much. And the head buyer at the National Hardware Show came by and talked to Stace, and he was with another, another buyer, but this was a senior buyer. And he said, I want this in True Values. And the guy said, okay, I'll introduce him to the category buyer. And the senior buyer said, nope, I want to shepherd this. And so he
Wow.
actually shepherded it through, is bringing us into all 14 DCs. They're rolling out marketing for us. They're really,
Awesome.
they believe that it's going
Congratulations.
to be one of their top selling new products this year, which is just really thrilling. So definitely they'll be able to find us in True Values. Obviously, certainly coastal stores will very clearly have it. So we're in a bunch of places now. We're going to be all over really soon.
All over, all over.
Yeah.
You know, this
Everywhere.
is it.
Wanderr is everywhere.
The wonder is everywhere. And Kevin, hey, as they were describing the product earlier, and I was kind of watching the video that's on their website. Hey, when we land on the moon, Elon Musk, we're gonna be there sooner. We'll have to maybe tap into Kevin's NASA network, because there might be some moon exploration applications. But kidding aside, Jules and Stacey, it's remarkable, and kudos to True Value that's willing to make those big commitments. But I didn't know about the all of the retailers that clearly you folks are gonna be able to go to and
Home
find it.
Depot and Lowe's.
Right.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, we're not set up on them yet, but we're in the process of making that happen.
It'll be there soon.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, so we're talking big news, and Kevin, you got some big news I'm gonna touch on in a second, but let's talk reality TV for a second, because America's Big Deal. Stacey, tell us about America's Big Deal.
Well, you know, that was, so we, like I said, Jules and I love building relationships and just entering in with people. And it's not about what they can do for us. It's like, how can we all join together and do things for each other and build each other up in the world that we're living in now, especially with everything with manufacturing and supply and demand and logistics and everything. And so we have become just not friends, but, you know, very close colleagues with some people at the National Hardware Show, and because we've been there and we've won awards, and you know, people love award winners. And so one of the head people reached out to us, y'all need to check out this new TV show coming on next season, and apply for it. So we did. We looked at it and we're like, oh my, we need to be on the show. And so we filled out the application and sent it in, and we didn't hear anything. And about a month or two later, we get an email and said, we love your product, but we're not going to take it because it's too expensive for the show.
Wow.
And of course, Jules and I we don't necessarily always take no for an answer. And so we were like, wait a second, there's got to be more. So we wrote them and said, we understand why you're saying no to us, but here's why you need to say yes. And we went in and we told them our whole story. We told them that we sold our home. We're living in an RV. We sold our home to save our company. We're living in an RV. We're traveling around a branded RV. We just told them the whole story. And like 2 weeks later on a Friday night, we were in Mobile, Alabama, and they called and they said, can you fly out on Sunday to New Jersey and start filming B-roll for the show? And we're like, did we make it? And they're like, oh, we really can't say yet, but we're going to go ahead and do B-roll. We could not fly out then because Sunday was our anniversary. I don't know why we wanted to celebrate in Mobile, Alabama. No, we were there for an event, and so we said we could be there first thing Tuesday morning. And so we flew out Monday night and started filming. And so we got there. And if you watch the show, you see that we were the most expensive product on the show. But we won, and we
Congratulations. Yes.
We actually sold out before we even got to pitch. So that was kind of a telltale sign that people really wanted this product. And then we won and got the deal with QVC. And this show was produced by Joy, and I always say her name wrong. Mangano.
Okay, there's so much there, and I know we're just getting like the Reader's Digest version, but congratulations, America's Big Deal. And that was how long ago was that?
October.
End of
October. Okay. So that was the first sounds like, or an early domino that fell, that's led to all these other dominoes as the Wanderr takes over the world. I'm a bit partial, but it's awesome. It is awesome to see. All right. So Kevin, speaking of big news, because both of America's Big Deal, we got the dynamic duo here that were the big deal. And then Kevin, you've got 4 days to save the world. Tell us about that.
Yeah, 4 days to save the world. Season 2 premieres on Earth Day tomorrow on all the streaming channels. It's on Apple and Hulu and Voodoo and all the dudes. Amazon Prime, right?
So hopefully, Kevin, since we'll publish this, a few days after it goes live, we should be able to add direct links to the episode or the season to the episode page.
Yeah, so we'll add the link on the show notes and keep everyone informed on when I'll be on there. So we're looking forward to that. So season 2 of 4 days to save the world, and the whole concept is that it's you have a team of 10 business people, and they're given an impossible task, but they have to create a business model to solve that impossible task. Easy things like eliminate hunger, recreate education, or end racism, eliminate homelessness, things like that.
Wow.
So it's very exciting.
That.
You only have 4 days to do it, though.
See, Kevin laughs at that challenge. Kevin says, I'll do it in 2.5.
Yeah.
But I look, kidding aside, really looking forward to that. Kevin, I've had the honor really of collaborating with you for probably a couple of years now. And man, with Kevin, you get what you see what you get. And he's, you're doing so much good out in the marketplace, much like Stacey and Jules. And those are kind of people that the crazy you can celebrate, and you want to do some of that crazy with them. You want to get out there and
part of your network, right?
Right. That's right. So looking forward to 4 days to save the world coming up soon. And I'll have to go back. We'll have to find the link, the replay of America's Big Deal, Stacey and Jules. We can't do your podcast justice, but folks can find y'all. Tell us about Do It in Nature.
Do it in nature.
Right. I'm sorry. I didn't emphasize on the wrong syllable.
Yeah, so we've done about 50 or 60 episodes, and who we interview are people who are doing really cool stuff outside. So they're either running outdoor gear companies, or they are running outdoor nonprofits, or they're extreme athletes. So we've had an Olympic medalist on. We've had some really cool guests on our show. So yeah, Do It in Nature every week. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts, but really fun. We love doing that.
Outstanding. And you have a certain day of the week you publish on?
Yeah, on Wednesdays.
Okay, so every Wednesday, find it wherever you get your podcast from. Do It in Nature. Did I say that, Kevin? Okay. All right. I passed the Kevin test there. Okay. So much. We didn't even touch on our whole RV and how that came about. Stacey, you just kind of alluded to it. Man, talk about making big, bold bets on yourself, difficult decisions. Before we ask everybody here how folks can connect with all three, I want to touch on this because tell that story. Man, what in the world to get to that point? And
sell your RV. It's called sacrifice. When you're an entrepreneur, it becomes very you learn that often.
Yeah. Just the quick of the long and painful journey of that was in 2020. We actually, our first manufacturer ended up going silent on us. That we assumed they switched the PPE stuff, and we just didn't even have product. They sent over our first a few products in January, right before everything got shut down, and they weren't right. And we tried to get them to fix it, and they couldn't. So we had to fire them. They ended up taking a lot of money from us and never paid us back. And unfortunately, we were with someone we thought we trusted on stateside. So we had to go and find a new manufacturer. So we started getting on every Zoom manufacturing call. I mean, because then the world shut down at this point. And we ended up getting connected to another manufacturer, and just he was a good guy. I mean, honestly, he was a good guy, and we trusted him. He ended up getting our first 2,500 units done and went to ship them over, and we didn't have any money to pay him. And so that was completely our fault, because for the whole year of 2020, Jules and I did over 150 pitches and could not find any funding, which was sad, because we knew of a local sunglass company that raised $8 million during 2020. And we couldn't even get, $1. It was really tough. And so Jules we looked at each other in December of 2020 and said, how much do we believe in this? And we're like, absolutely. We're already all in. I mean, we'd already closed out 401ks and maxed out credit cards, the normal entrepreneur story. It's not anything that's an anomaly in the entrepreneurial world. And she said, how much do we believe in this? And I was like, with everything in every fiber in our being. And she's like, the only thing we have left is our home. And we knew with the housing market at the time that we had equity in our home. And so we're like, okay, we got it ready. Didn't even really put it on the market. Our neighbor bought it for asking price, and so we knew that we were going to have enough money coming in to get our product out of the warehouse in Utah that was hidden. So every bit of that money went into, there wasn't nothing left. That was it. All the money from our house sale went into getting our product, to get it out to the market. And we were like, okay. And for that moment, we were homeless. We didn't have anywhere to go. I mean, at 50 years old, didn't really want to move back in with mom and dad. And so Jules, so back in Aiken, a friend of mine, her dad, when I remember going in their house when I was 7 years old, and he had this plaque, and the acronym, he used to work for the railroad company, is you can't sell freight sitting on your ass. And I used that, and I've heard it. I mean, since I was 6 or 7 years old, it has always resonated in me. And we were like, what do we do now? And I was like, can't sell freight sitting on your ass. So we were like, let's get an RV. Jules, you want to show them the picture? So we went and financed an RV. It's not a top of the line, so don't think that we're living high on the hog in these RVs. It is one of the cheapest ones we could find, and you couldn't find an RV then. And so we had to go with what we could get. And we wrapped it. So I'll show you in our brand. That's what we're living. It looks bigger than it is. It's 32 feet. And so it's not huge. So we went to this nice 3-bedroom house to our nice little home now of 200 and something square feet, but it's ours, it's our rolling billboard. There's QR codes all over it. So we're riding down the road. We see people snapping it. We're in RV parks. People are going down and downloading it. So we're on it's a big marketing road trip for 18 months. And we felt like that was the best way that we could get out to the masses, other than sitting in somewhere in Charleston, South Carolina. So now we've been on the road for almost a year. In 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it'll be a year. And we're just literally doing our road trip.
Wow. Impressive.
Yeah, it is impressive. And I think that's the perfect, when I initially asked the question, I'm like, man, we should have moved this. I should have moved this up in the interview, but it's actually a great story to wrap on, because you bet so big on yourself. You made the tough decision. And now going back to that big news, that lack of support from the investor community, all those challenges you ran into, now you're starting to ride a tidal wave that's growing bigger and bigger and bigger. And I hope y'all have had a chance, to kind of reflect and say, and just kind of all these 100, how many pitches again, Stacey?
So just in 2020, about 150.
At least 150 opportunities that folks had a chance to get involved and support and invest. They missed out. You
only need one yes, right?
Right. Just one yes. So I love what you are doing. I know that we didn't, it's tough to get everything in an hour and maybe a little bit over an hour, but we'll have to have y'all back on. We'll do an update show. We'll have to maybe look at a live stream so y'all interact with our our global
The
ecosystem.
Yeah.
And we should say a quick shout out. The RV is named after, I believe, your grandmother, Olive
Yep.
Stacey, right?
My mom's mom.
Your
And I
mom's
just
mom.
want to say, this is not this. We are so thankful that we have the opportunity to do this, like to be on the road, to see America. I mean, the people we've met, the places we've seen, we would have never had this opportunity. So everything that seems bad has a very good silver lining. This one does, because we are given this opportunity that we've never had before, or
Yep.
would have never had before.
I can appreciate that, but there's part of me that wants to poke people in the eyes, the folks that had the opportunity. So but that is a very a business savvy and mature way of putting it, Stacey. And I can really appreciate it, but man, I love this growth you're on. Kevin, we're going to make sure folks know how to connect with all of y'all, but I'll give you the last word on the story we heard here from Stacey and Jules and the OME Gear team.
Yeah. It emphasizes just about everything we've said. You have to believe in yourself, right? And you have to leverage your network, and you have to just keep pushing. All right. Keep
pushing. Okay, because as Stacey just shared their silver linings, and there's silver linings in all the obstacles, and it's all meant to be, and it makes you stronger and puts you in position to do big things like Stacey and Jules are up to. So let's make sure folks know how to connect with both of y'all. Start with you, Jules. And I tell you, I've been following y'all's story for quite some time. It's so cool to see. I knew Stacey, much like Kevin. You see, you get what they are who they are, right? And Jules, you're the same. You're the same person I've seen in all those social snippets, all the updates, and that is so cool. That authenticity is so important. So, Jules, how can folks connect with you?
Yeah, best way is just info@omegear.com. We get all those emails. And so it's super easy to remember, info@omegear.com. And then we're on every social handle. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, where you can find us on any of those. And all of those are linked from our website, which is just like you said before, omegear.com.
Awesome. And of course, we're going to make it really easy. We're going to include all those links in the episode page when folks are one click away. And you know what, Kevin? Just like we've got to go through Kevin's agent to book him here, it's not going to be long before we have to go through their agent, Stacey and Jules. We'll just add that one more contact to the episode page.
Oh, you didn't do that for this show?
Hey, maybe so. Maybe so.
The friends and family route.
Friends and family, yes. So speaking of friends and family, it's so cool to reconnect with you here, Stacey. Same. I mean, nothing's changed, and except the journey you're on, right? And you're on the precipice, right? You're already coast to coast, and thanks to our great friends at True Value. But how can folks connect with you, Stacey?
Same way. I mean, right there, info@omegear.com. Actually, and I would like to invite your listeners to follow us. If you go to Facebook, if you're on Facebook, go to OME Gear Insiders Group. It's a private group. That way you can kind of get the news before it happens. You can go back and you can hear some very raw video, see very raw video of Jules in our down moments, because entrepreneurship is not all rainbows and puppy tails. And so we want to tell the story as we're going through it. And so that's where you can kind of see the behind the scenes and what's going on with the OME Gear.
Yep. Well said there. Well said. I wish every day was, what did you say there, Stacey? Puppy tails.
Rainbows and puppy tails.
Rainbows and puppy tails. Okay. That's a new one. I'm going to add that. Steal it from you. Big thanks, Stacey Pierce and Jules Weldon. Had a blast. But hey, before y'all go, Kevin, man, talk about big news. Digital Transformers, just one of your many ventures, is blowing up. So tell us how they connect with you.
So Digital Transformers, just like the 40,000 plus people that downloaded the show this month. We just went through the roof. So thank you for the audience. And this week, we're going to have a special guest, the CEO of Experts on Demand, Marcin Buzansky. He's going to be joining us from Warsaw, Poland. on talking about the future of work. He just returned from Kiev and Lviv in the Ukraine, and he's been doing a lot of work with the refugees, and so he has a lot to share on the future of work globally and within Eastern Europe during a time of war. So stay tuned for that one. But yeah, so Digital Transformers on Supply Chain Now. We're on Twitter, Digital TransX, and LinkedIn, Digital Transformers with Kevin Jackson. And I'm also on all of the channels.
Everywhere. Kevin's everywhere. Let's just face it. He'll be in Mount Rushmore soon. Who knows? So, well, it has been so cool to hang out with all three of y'all. Stacey Pierce, co-founder and CEO of OME Gear, Jules Weldon, co-founder and CEO at OME Gear. Make sure y'all check that out, omegear.com. The Wanderr sounds like it's just going to be the first hit global product, first of many to come. So thank you, Stacey.
That notebook.
Yes,
Stacey's notebook. See all those drawings.
It's like Willy Wonka's secret product notebook. All kinds of ideas in there. But thank you so much, Stacey and Jules.
It was our pleasure.
Thank you so much, guys. Thanks, Kevin.
You bet. And thank you, Kevin L. Jackson, as always. Y'all check out Digital Transformers. And of course, you also appear with us every third Monday on the Supply Chain Buzz on Mondays at 12 noon Eastern time.
This past Buzz was the bomb, man. That was great show.
It sure was. But to our listeners, hopefully you enjoyed this really frank, authentic, chock full of best practices and been there, done that experiences, conversations as much as I did. Be sure to connect with Jules and Stacey and Kevin. But most importantly, if you pick up one thing from this conversation today, folks, be like Jules, be like Stacey, do good, give forward, be the change that's needed. And on that note, we'll see you next time right back here at Supply Chain Now. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye.
We're going to keep going for just a second. That prestigious B-roll. We're going to get on the other side, help our friends in the production team. But folks, that was really good. I know we went long there, and I wish I pushed that one question up, but there's so much to y'all's story.
Yeah,
I don't know, Kevin. I'm not sure how we could have tackled that differently, even in an hour or 75 minutes or whatever.
No, it was engaging, very good, and good information. If you want to be an entrepreneur, this is a master class.